What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a top 10 songs of Sammy Davis Jr., brought to us by our friend, Patreon, and supporter of this channel, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. Now, last month, Doug brought me an album from Madonna, I'm Breathless, an actual album from Madonna I didn't know, and our first Madonna album reaction on the channel. Now he's bringing some Sammy. I only have one song up of Sammy that I did a couple years ago, and that was for our late, great patron poet who passed away last year. He brought me one Sammy, he brought me 3 Dean Martin, and 1 Frank Sinatra, 1 or 2 Sinatras. So I just know a little bit of the Rat Pack. I remember them when I was growing up just a little bit. I remember Dean Martin's roast, but I don't know a lot about Sammy. So this is going to be a fun journey. And when Doug brought me this list, he said, this is my favorite songs of the legend, and I'm sure some songs will be different from other lists of Sammy Davis Jr. I'll just say that I first heard the Candyman in 1973, and as an 8-year-old, the line, "You can even eat the dishes," was profound. I also would like to share that on my 3 completed marathons, which is amazing, by the way, the song Yes I Can was always on my playlist and available when I needed that extra boost. That is fantastic. I'm not going to go into a whole history about Sammy. I mean, his life is amazing, and he overcame so many things. You know, he was blinded before his first album came out, lost one eye in an accident, and just met with a lot of difficulties throughout his life, but he overcame them all and was just fantastic. And if you want to know more about him, there's a podcast series that actually had these pods downloaded. You Must Remember This is the podcast. It's called You Must Remember This. Not my podcast. I'm not showing my own podcast, but You Must Remember This. And a couple years ago, the woman that does this podcast brought a 9-part series on Sammy Davis Jr. It's funny, I had that downloaded. I sat and started listening to it. And then Doug brings Sammy Davis Jr. Top 10. Great minds think alike, right? Well, if you've never been with us before, the music will not be in the video, but it'll be at a Vimeo link below. Go click on that and listen along with me. We're going to start this off with Happy to Make Your Acquaintance with Carmen McRae. They had an album together called Boy Meets Girl in 1957. I'd never heard of Carmen. She was an American jazz singer. She's considered one of the most influential jazz vocalists of the 20th century and was remembered for her behind-the-beat phrasing and ironic interpretation of lyrics. I will tell you, when I do all the research even for the videos I don't shoot on this channel, for the ones that Trey do, and I always have, right? Well over 2,000 videos. There is not a lot out here on Sammy and his songs. It's kind of crazy to me, like, I guess, just because it was so far back, but there's just not a lot out there. But I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Doug. Happy to Make Your Acquaintance. Just a cool song, right? Just oozes coolness, man. And what I like, the second the music came on, the arrangement, it takes you back to a time and place. These songs are absolutely timeless, but Sammy just trying to pick up on Carmen, trying to use a few lines, and she puts Sammy in his place, right? Teaches him what he should say to a girl, and it's happy to make your acquaintance. And he's like, man, that's so square. And then tells her one time, you sound like one of those rock and rollers. And then finally, with about 1 minute left, about 1:05 left, Sammy sings a couple lines. You just feel that smoothness, but just a cool song, man. Just really enjoyed that. Next up at number 9, we got That Old Black Magic. It was a single in 1955. It's a 1942 song written by Harold Arlen, the music with the lyrics by Johnny Mercer. They wrote it for the 1942 film Star Spangled Rhythm when it was sung by Johnny Johnston and danced by Vera Zorina. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1943. It's been an often recorded standard with versions that include the original single released by Glenn Miller, by the singers Margaret Whiting, Frank Sinatra, and our man right here, Sammy Davis Jr. Mercer recalled wanting to write a song about magic, and while composing, asking Arlen to write more music so the song could go on longer, but that they still wrote the whole song in about 3 hours. Sammy's version spent 6 weeks on the Billboard charts and went to number 16. And the thing you gotta remember here is these guys, the old quote crooners, they didn't write their own songs, right? Everybody's recording these standards going all the way back to the 20s. And it's kind of an interesting thing, right? Because you can listen to the same song recorded by the different people and truly compare who had the best vocal chops. That Old Black Magic, and like a lot of songs from back in the day, it has to do with the significant other, right? This girl that he's in love with, and no matter what, that old black magic, she just has the spell cast on him. But Sammy really gets into, get a nice few little sound effects in there towards the end, but Sammy really gets into the vocals, right? You feel his emotion as the song goes in and just finishes with that crescendo, that culmination. So a really good song. Next up, we've got I've Gotta Be Me from I've Gotta Be Me in 1968. It's a popular song that appeared in the Broadway musical Golden Rainbow, which starred Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. Sammy recorded the song in 1968 when the musical was still running on Broadway and released it as a single later in the year. This version was a surprise hit for Sammy since Golden Rainbow was not among the more successful shows on Broadway that season. It only lasted one season, too. Produced by Jimmy Boehm, Sammy's cover peaked at number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and remained in the top 40 for 11 weeks. I'm pretty sure I know this song, but maybe not. I've Gotta Be Me. I mean, I didn't know Sammy's version, but I know this song from just being in movies or TV or something. But once again, I want to zone. Well, first, the song itself, really good song. Like all these different things. He can't be right for someone else if he's not right for himself. So can't give up his dreams. He's got to be me. So a good message for a lot of people and a lot of us out there. You've got to be yourself, right? You can't compromise on that, or you're really no good for anybody else. But his vocal performance, the masterful of I'm just going to sing this straight up, right? I mean, holding notes nicely, but then as it builds, right? You feel the emotion. He builds it and builds it more powerful and powerful. And I mean, just fantastic. And there's not a lot of singers that can pull that off. Except at number 7, we got B-Bomb from 1964. First released in 1961 by Anthony Newley, who wrote a lot of the songs that Sammy covered. Now, this one's interesting because I couldn't find anything on it, like nothing. B-Bomb, B-Bomb, B-Bomb. Now I know how to say it, right? A really good song to talk about. It started out with the upright bass. Got a lot of piano in there, a little bit different arrangement here. I really enjoyed it, and basically it's his affection for this girl and his infatuation with her. But just a fun tune. Right? You just found yourself singing along that B-Bomb, B-Bomb, B-Bomb. Worked really, really well. Next up, we have Gonna Build a Mountain from the album What Kind of Fool Am I? Other Showstoppers from 1962. This is from the musical Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. Gonna Build a Mountain. Really like the lyrical content of that. He's going to build a mountain. Someday Gabriel's going to take him away, but he's going to build that mountain with the good Lord's grace. I'm a Christian, and those of you who watch this channel all the time know that, but if you don't. So, I mean, I enjoyed that, almost a lot of biblical allusions here, but a really good performance. I like the little yeah-yeahs that came on from the female back, and just at certain times to really punctuate the lines, but just a nice, smooth performance from the man. All right, we're halfway through this list. So kicking off the top 5, we got Birth of the Blues, released in 1954 as a single, but on his 1955 album, starring Sammy Davis Jr. It was his debut album, and it was his only number 1 album. But more importantly, it was the first number 1 album by a solo African-American. Some other African-Americans had done it, but they were members of groups. And just a cool little thing for Sammy. We're going to dial it way back for this one. It was popular in 1926, composed by Ray Henderson, with lyrics by Buddy DeSilva and Lou Brown. It was used in the Broadway review George White's Scandals in 1926. Birth of the Blues. And I was going to mention at the start of this song, and I just forgot to. It's very interesting because it's over 5 minutes long, and this is 1954, 55. You didn't have songs this long, right? Especially that were released on the radio. Everything had to be under 3 minutes. Famously, it was another decade before the Beatles tried to kind of break that down a little bit, and then some other artists came along and really broke it down. But it didn't. It just wasn't done. But it's cool, right? This little quasi-live performance, and you get the little false ending with 1:11 left, and we go right back into it. But fantastic performance. And just saying how the blues, the different places it was born, right? These people who are down and out. And so just a cool song. But I also want to give a shout out to Mort Stevens and his orchestra. That's who's backing Sammy here, and just a wonderful job on this one. All right, up to number 4, finally up here with Old Blue Eyes, Me and My Shadow with Frank Sinatra, 1962. I don't know what album or where it's from. I took it off of a Reprise Rarities Volume 5 from Frank Sinatra 2021 on Spotify. Obviously, that's not where it's from, but it's a 1927 popular song. Officially, the credit show it is written by Al Jolson, Billy Rose, and Dave Dreyer, with Jolson and Dreyer being shown on the sheet music as being responsible for the music and Rose the lyrics. But I'm just sharing this with you because I thought it was interesting. Al Jolson was often given credits on sheet music so he could earn more money by popularizing them. But he actually played no real part in writing the song, because if you don't understand how it works, the majority of the money goes to the songwriters, more so than the performer, right? So it was good they threw Al this little bone in here. This was one of two duets recorded in studio for release on a Reprise 45 single. The single peaked at 46 on the Hot 100. Let's do it. Me and My Shadow, and you just feel the fun that they were having. Like, you can't fake this. Like, you can just feel the smiles on their face. I love the talking back and forth. I mean, the idea of the song is these guys are as close as can be, and when everybody else goes to sleep, they're out partying, but they got each other and they're going to have a good time. But just the playing off of each other. The vocals are obviously fantastic, but I like the spoken dialogue too. You just feel like you're in there with them. All right, well, now it's going to get really tough, right? Top three, you see it below. Mr. Bojangles from Portrait of Sammy Davis Jr. in 1972. I know this song, and I know Sammy's version. I mean, I was 1 year old, but I mean, I know this. But I didn't know the history behind this song. It's a song written and originally recorded by American country music artist Jerry Jeff Walker for his 1968 album of the same title. Walker said he was inspired to write the song after an encounter with a street performer in a New Orleans jail. While in jail for public intoxication in 1965, he met a homeless man who called himself Mr. Bojangles to conceal his true identity from the police. You're not going to get away with that nowadays. Mr. Bojangles had been arrested as part of a police sweep of indigent people that was carried out following a high-profile murder. The two men and others in the cell chatted about all manner of things, but when Mr. Bojangles told a story about his dog, the mood in the room turned heavy. Someone else in the cell asked for something to lighten the mood, and Mr. Bojangles obliged with a tap dance. The homeless Mr. Bojangles, who was white, had taken his pseudonym from Bill Bojangles Robinson, who lived from 1878 to 1949, a black entertainer. Of course, this song became one of Sammy Davis Jr.'s long-loved signature performances, and he sang it at President Richard Nixon's invitation at a concert at the White House the following year. And that caused Sammy some issues, his support of Nixon, but that's a whole nother story. Mr. Bojangles, and I mean, the story is told throughout the song. Like, I know this song, but I've never paid attention to the lyrics, to exactly the story that it was telling. Just fantastic. You get the idea on the dog, right? He's with the dog. He traveled around. His dog died. He was still grieving the dog 20 years later. So they said, do something to make us happy. And he stands up and, does the thing. And just a fantastic song and a great performance. A right down the middle performance by Sammy, right? He didn't try to take away from the story. He just sang this thing, right? Just so, so well done. Now, I knew Mr. Bojangles, and I know the number one song, but I don't think I know this song. Yes, I Can, from the album If I Ruled the World in 1965. It was composed by Leslie Briscoe and Cyril Ordnadell, which was originally for the 1963 West End musical Pickwick, based on Charles Dickens' The Pickwick Papers. It's since been covered by many artists, and it's in many movies and TV shows, so maybe I'll know it when I hear it. Yes, I Can. Just a really well done song, beautifully arranged, right? More jazz influenced on this one than some of the others that we've heard. Just really, really good performance. Built on it like some of the earlier songs we heard on here, with Sammy just building up to that just magnificent finale. I like the 130. I know he didn't write the song, but 133 pounds of confidence, me. I just thought that was a funny line, man. But this song's really good, fitting of number 2. And here we go, up to number 1. Drum roll. I know the drama's killed because you already see it below. But this is, I mean, I don't know very many Sammy songs, obviously. This is a song that I would have thought would be number 1. The Candyman from Sammy Davis Jr. now in 1972. It was originally appeared in the 1971 film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which I just didn't remember. My wife did. My daughter did. I was like, yeah, I didn't remember that. It's written by Leslie Briscoe and Anthony Newley, who appeared earlier. We talked about him earlier specifically for the film. And there's an interesting story behind that. I won't get into that, but Newley wasn't too excited about how it was performed in the movie. Although Sammy admitted to disliking the song, finding it too saccharine. In other words, sweet. Saccharin was an artificial sweetener used back in the day that ended up causing cancer to people. But hey, found it too saccharine. It became his only number 1 hit. I thought that was crazy. Spent 3 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard chart. They ranked as number 5 song for the year. So it's crazy that you could hit number 1 in 1972, where the music landscape had changed significantly, right? And had for quite a while, that Sammy could still hit number 1 with this song. That's why you still had to have these guys around, the crooners, man. They stayed true to themselves. I really like that. The track featured backing vocals by Mike Curb Congregation, who earlier released an unsuccessful version of this song. Is recognized, of course, as one of Sammy's signature songs, and the Candyman came to be his moniker later in his career. That's kind of funny, right, since he didn't like it. It was nominated for a Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Male Performance. All right, number 1 on Doug's Top 10 Sammy Davis Jr. list we got the Candyman. The Candyman. I could see how Sammy would think this was too saccharine for him as you listen to the rest of the list, but man, this song is just so catchy, right? Obviously, the call and response. You can just feel Sammy's confidence. The Candyman can take care of anything, right? He can take care of anything. So I think that part of it fits Sammy and his persona quite nicely, and definitely a fitting number one. Now we come to my favorite tracks. This one is going to be very tough. Now, I obviously have the research here in front of me, and then I make little notes during the song. And like when a song's over with, if it's not going to be one of my faves, I know it. I just erase it. If it's an honorable mention, I put that. If it's a favorite, I put that. And there's still 8 of these 10 songs left, and the 2 I erased, I didn't dislike at all. So I mean, this is going to be a long list. Honorable mention, that first song, "Happy to Make Your Acquaintance" with Carmen McRae. I just thought it just had a cool vibe to it. "I've Gotta Be Me," "B-Bomb," "Gonna Build a Mountain," and "Yes I Can." Faves, "Me and My Shadow" with the great Frank Sinatra, which if you have Netflix, there's a 2-part, 4-hour documentary on the life of Frank Sinatra. I recommend that. That was fantastic. Of course, "Mr. Bojangles," and of course, the Candyman. I mean, he can come in at number one. He can come in on my faves list. So what a fantastic list. A great bit of musical knowledge to fill in my the gaps that I have for some of these old crooners who are just legends. So thank you to Doug for bringing this one. I know this list was hard to compile for him because he mentioned that last month he was having a hard time with the top 10 list. So I'm assuming it was just, it's very, very hard, boys and girls, to come up with 10 songs from somebody who has this vast catalog, and Sammy's catalog is gigantic. So let us know what you think of this list. Let us know your favorite songs in there. Let us know what else you think should have been on this list, but do it with some respect. As I mentioned, this list is very hard to put together. So thanks to Doug. Thanks to you for watching. Until next time, guys, I will see you.